from the lesson that you did the other day on hyperbolas. And so as we do our homework, as we go through it, the hope is that you can press pause and try it first yourself. That independently you can do this. And then press play to see if you did it correctly. Or if you need support, then you need support. So let's go through this. The first thing I noticed, the center is at 0, 0. Let's put that in right there. Next, what's positive? The quadratic term that's first. That's what A is. So the square root of 4. B is the square root of 36. C is the square root of, and you add them, which is 40. And we'll estimate that on a graph. So to grade our box, we're going to count 2 to the right. We're going to count 2 to the left. We're going to count 6 up. We're going to count 6 down. And then create our box. Now, from that box, did I count 6 down? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I need to go one more. It didn't look symmetric. There it is. Off it goes. So, make sure it's symmetric around the center. So 6 up, 6 down, 2 right, 2 left, right? We get that? Now, from the center, draw our asymptote. From the center through the corner. Center, through the corner, center, through the corner. Next, we need to remember this is a horizontal. So these are going to fold right and fold left. So use the vertex left and right on that rectangle. And you've drawn your hyperbola. Now, what are those vertices we use? So we added and subtracted 2. So that's 2, 0 and negative 2, 0. The minor ones, we added and subtracted 6. That's 0, 6, and 0, negative 6. And then our foci, the square root of 40, that's 6 and a little bit. So we're going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and a little bit. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and a little bit. And those are our foci that go with those vertices. So our foci was with the x. So the x coordinate is positive and negative root 40. Now the asymptotes. Rise over run. So y equals, it's going to be positive and negative, rise over run. And our b goes with the y. So it's 6 over 2. And 6 over 2 is 3. Or you can write 6 over 2. And then our center was 0, 0. So it's just plus or minus 3x for the asymptotes. Number 2, are you willing to try it yet? Okay, so here, try it, and then I'll do it. The first thing I noticed is that the center is at negative 1, negative 1. Did you get that correct? Okay, you did. Next, it's also a vertical. Now notice the denominators are equal. That's okay. I'm looking for the positive one. So our A and our B is 4. So it's going to be a square, which is a rectangle in the middle. So I'm going to count up 4. I'm going to count down 4. To the right 4. And to the left 4. So when I draw this, if it doesn't look like a square, I did something wrong. So that does look like a square. From the center, through the corners. Through the corners, from the center, through the corners, from the center, through the corners. Those are your asymptotes. Remind yourself, this is vertical. So it's going to go up and it's going to go down. Our C, we add them. So it's the square root of 32. Now for that, what is that approximately, the square root of 32? So it's between 5 and 6. So it's 5 and a little bit. So from here we're going to count. We already counted up 4, so 5 and a little bit. Here, down here, 4, 5, and a little bit. Approximate where those foci are. Now write down the vertices. So we added and subtracted 4. So to the y coordinate for the vertices. So add 4 and subtract 4. For the minor ones, we also added, but we did that to the x coordinate. So same thing, but to the x coordinate. So that would be positive 3, negative 1, and it would be negative 5, negative 1. The foci affected the y coordinate, so it's negative 1, plus or minus the square root of 32. And the asymptotes will rise over run. Now, in this case, 4 over 4, rise over run, will give us 1. So it's plus or minus 1, and then the center, which is at negative 1, negative 1. So that's plus 1 and minus 1. Notice the x-coordinate, the sign changes, but the y-coordinate stays the same. You could also write plus or minus x plus 1 minus 1, also for that. 4 divided by 4 is 1. All right, 2 more to practice graphing. Then we're going to practice again how to write it in standard form. Again, press pause. You try it, then press play and see if you did it correctly. All right, first thing I notice, the center is at 0 and positive 2. So go to 0 and positive 2. Remember the x and the y coordinate. A is the square root of 49. That goes up 7 and down 7. B is the square root of 9. That's 3. And then create your rectangle. Then, from the center through the corners. Now, draw your hyperbola. This is vertical, so it's going to go up and it's going to go down from the vertex on the rectangle. C is the square root of, add them, that would be 58. Then, to put our foci on here, the square root of 58, that is between 7 and 8. Square root of 64 is 8. So 7.5, 7 and a bit. So count up 7 and a bit, count down 7 and a bit, and put your foci on there. And now let's write it down. So our center, again, was at 0, 2. Our vertices, we took the y-coordinate and we added 7. We took the y-coordinate and subtract 7. The co-vertices, we took the x-coordinate and we added 3 and subtracted 3. The foci is the square root of 58. Now for the square root of 58, that's the x-coordinate, the y-coordinate, sorry. So it's 0, 2, plus or minus the square root of 58, affecting the y-coordinate, and then the asymptotes. So it's y equals positive and negative. Positive slope, negative slope. Rise over run. Which one goes with the y-coordinate? That's 7. So it's 7 over 3. And then the center. So it's just x plus 2. One more to graph. Man, I really want you to try it first. That way you're learning it. That's why we're doing this. All right. This is horizontal. The center is at 3, 1. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 1. Next, A is the square root of 25. So 5 to the right, 5 to the left. B is the square root of 36. That's 6 up, 6 down. Create your rectangle. From the center, go through the corners. This is a sideways, horizontal parabola. So it curves left and right. To the x-coordinate, I'm going to add 5. That's 8. To the x-coordinate, subtract 5. 3 take away 5, negative 2. The minor ones is 6. So to the y coordinate, add 6. 1 plus 6. Subtract 6. That's negative 5. The foci affects the x. C, you add them. That's 61. If I put that on my graph, the square root of 61 is almost 8. So it's 7 and a little bit. So to the right, go 7 and a little bit. Here. And I know this is 5. So 6, 7, and a little bit goes up right there. So to the x coordinate, 3 plus or minus square root of 61 and 1. The asymptotes, y equals plus or minus, rise over 1. Which one goes with the y? So b, so 6 over 5, and then the center. So it's x subtract 3 plus 1. And those are the two equations of the asymptotes. Turn the page. So that's all the graphing. Now we have questions to write this in standard form. Let me do the first one for you, with you, and then hopefully some of these you'll press pause and problem first. Step 1, x squared and negative 6x need to be together. Negative 4y squared plus 40y need to be together. And then I'm going to add 127 so the constant is on the right side. And it's important that the constant is a positive number when it's by itself. Next, find the number to complete the square. Or factor first if you have to. For the x squared, there's nothing to factor out in front. Divide by 2 and square it. So negative 6 divided by 2, that's negative 3. Square it, that's 9. Now for the next one, we need to factor first. So we need to factor out the negative 4. And be careful when you factor out a negative number, because it's going to change the sign of the linear coefficient that you're factoring. So when you go 40 divided by 4, that's going to be a negative 10. It changes the sign. Now we're going to complete the square quickly for y. So to complete the square again, we divide by 2 and square it. So 10 divided by 2 is 5, and square is 25. Then I need to find what are the numbers to add or subtract to the right side so it stays the same equation. So we have a 9 that wasn't there before, and 25, but it's negative 4 times 25. That's negative 100. Now we're going to factor and combine like terms. So the x, that's negative 3 squared. To the y, that's negative 5 squared. And combine like terms on the right, that's 36. Divide, and you're going to get your answer. So the end answer is x subtract 3 squared divided by 36. 4 goes into 36 9 times, and that's equal to 1. Are you ready to try this on your own? And then press play. All right, let's do one more together, then try it on your own. So the positive quadratic term first. That's 25y squared. That goes with positive 100y. The negative quadratic term and its partner, negative 32x, and then keep 316 on the right side. We're going to factor and complete the square. So factor out of 25. 100 divided by 25, that's 4. Divide by 2 and square, that's also 4. Factor out a negative 16, be careful, it's going to be plus. And when you divide, that's 2. Divide by 2 and square, that's 1. And then what numbers do I add that weren't there before? That's 25 times 4, that's 100. And negative 16 times 1, that's negative 16. We're going to factor. That's y plus 2 squared. We're going to factor. That's x plus 1 squared. These should be simple trinomials to factor. Combine like terms on the right side. That's 216, take away 16, that's 200. So I'm going to divide everything by, sorry, it's 416, take away 16, that's 400. Divide everything by 400. And here's your answer. So 400 divided by 25, that's 8. No, 16 quarters. 400 divided by 16, that's 25. They go with each other, right? And that's equal to 1. All right, number 7. Now I really want you to try. But you know if you need support first. But if you can try, please try it first. All right, 25x squared. That goes with 100x. We're going to subtract y squared, and that goes with positive 14y, and that's equal to 49. Step 1. Step 2, we're going to factor and complete the square. So we're going to factor out at 25. That leaves me with 4. Take the 4, divide by 2, and square it. We're going to do the same thing for y squared. We have to factor out the negative 1. So that's y squared minus 14y. Divide by 2, and square it. That's 49. And then what numbers should I be on the right side? So 25 times 4 is 100, negative 1, and 4 is negative 49. Now we're going to factor. So that's x plus 2 squared. I don't need the negative 1. That's y minus 7 squared. And then combine like terms and you get 100. Divide everything by 100 and you have your answer. That is x plus 2 squared over 4. That is y minus 7 squared over 100, and that's equal to 1. All right, let's see it. Press pause and you try it, and then press play. All right, the positive quadratic term needs to come first. So y squared first, then subtract 16y, then negative 100x squared, then there's no other x's, so that's done, and that's equal to 36. The only one I need to complete the square for is y. The x's are fine. So for the y, I'm going to divide by 2. Negative 16 divided by 2 is negative 8, and square it, it is 64. Note that there's no reason to factor first because it's a 1 for the y squared. And then what do I add to the other side? Because it's positive 64 is 64. So I'm going to factor. That's y subtract 8 squared. That's negative 100x squared, and that is 100. So again, I'm going to divide everything by 100. So I have y subtract 8 squared divided by 100 minus x squared, that's equal to 1. Number 9. Please try it. If you can't, you can't. All right, here we go. So I'm going to start with positive y squared and subtract 20y. Negative x squared and 18x, and that's equal to 45. I'm going to divide by 2. That's 10, and square it. That's 100. I'm going to factor out a negative first. So the negative 1 needs to be factored out first. That changes this to negative 18x. That's essential. Divide by 2. That's 9, and square it. That's 81. So on the other side, we have 100, and we have negative 81. Factor y minus 10 squared. I don't need the 1 anymore. X minus 9 squared. And on the right side, combine it. 145, take away 81 is 64. Divide by 64. And we get y minus 10 squared over 64, x minus 9 squared over 64 is equal to 1. Last one for your homework, number 10. Everybody needs to press pause and do your best on your own to do this. All right. 4x squared minus 48x minus y squared minus 16y is equal to negative 16. Oh no, I don't want it to be equal to a negative number, but I am going to tell you this, that right now, I could divide everything by -1, or when I divide, it's going to change the order at the end. I'll tell you what I mean in a second. So we're going to keep this at -16 because it may not stay negative when I complete the square. We'll see. But it's still going to be okay. So the -16 on the right side, it's okay. So we have positive 4x squared, we have negative y squared, and we put them in order. Press pause, try the next step, then press play. All right, I'm going to factor out a 4. Divide by 2 and square it. I'm going to factor out a -1. That's plus 16. Divide by 2 and square it. So 4 times 36. 120, 130, 144. And then -1 and 64 is -64. See, it worked out. So when I combine like terms here, it's a positive number. That positive number is 64. So factor, that's x minus 6 squared. That's y plus 8 squared. That's equal to 64. So we're going to divide everything by 64, and that will give us our answer. That's 16. There's nothing to simplify here. And that's equal to 1. Done. Homework done. Mr. G Math, over and out. I'm proud of you. You did your work. You're getting stronger in your algebra, learning something new. All right, till next time.